I mean, I get it, it's a pretty song, but that's what you choose to stop your rally and dance or sway to, I guess?
Yes, indeed. I would have chosen something by the Bloodhound Gang or something like that.
You mean the guys who did the You and Me Baby Ain't Nothing But Mammals song?
So let's do it like they do on the Discovery Channel. Yes, indeed. It's an absolute banger.
Yeah, I know, man, but that's not the point. The point is he stopped this rally after people passed out because he wouldn't turn on the AC and then asked if anybody else wants to faint and then proceeds to stop it all together to sway to his favorite songs for 39 minutes.
Well, that seems like completely rational behavior to me.
Are you serious?
Of course not. All the man did was sway. He didn't even try and do the Dougie once. But also, he's clearly slipping into senility and probably shouldn't be in charge of the nuclear arsenal.
Yeah, exactly. So between that and all the fascist shit he said, like he's going to take away voting, he's going to be a dictator on day one, get rid of the Department of Education, take away funding from schools if they don't agree with him, plus all the Project 2025 shit of wanting to get rid of video games and porn, by the way. How are there still undecided voters, man?
Well, there aren't any. Anybody who says they haven't made up their mind is either lying to themselves or just, I'm sorry, but an idiot.
What about all those people on CNN and MSNBC and Fox News that claim they're undecided voters?
Oh, you mean all of the people that want to launch their acting careers or at the very least jumped at the chance to be on television?
Right.
Yeah, I'm sure they're real undecided. Especially when the quote-unquote undecided voters in Trump's town hall were all hand-picked Republican operatives.
Seriously?
Oh, absolutely. That man cannot be in front of an unfriendly crowd. If he ever is, he completely shuts down, folds his arms, and gets real cranky.
Oh, yeah. Are you talking about the Economic Club of Chicago where he, got interviewed with basic-ass math questions and completely shut down?
Well, actually, I was referring to the event of the National Association of Black Journalists, but you see a pattern.
Yeah, man, exactly. So, okay, is there really no independent voter? Well, I know there's independent voters, but is there really no undecided voter?
Well, statistically, there has to be, and statistically, there is, considering 6% of Americans will actually decide the election as a whole.
I hate that.
I do too. So why don't me, you, and the rest of the American audience and the lesser world at large let the hate flow through us like a Sith Lord tonight on America, the podcast.
It's America, the podcast.
All right, undecided voters. Why are they going to be the ones to decide this election, and how can we make them just decide?
Well, to answer your first question in a single word, tribalism. But to answer it in several different, magnificent words, Americans have become so divided that there are only two major camps. There is Red MAGA, which has the biggest camp of all, around 30% of Americans, that basically is a bunch of people who are big fans of fascism and potential monarchies, or dictatorships, depending on how you look at it. Then amidst that camp are all the little camps of people that just want lower gas prices, their jobs back that died because, coal isn't really a viable resource anymore, and several different people who just simply want higher paychecks. There is also plenty of people who lost their jobs due to outsourcing, something I should say that Donald Trump exacerbated a lot. Kind of ironic when the Republican Party is constantly about buying American and nothing else.
I mean, they are the party of greed, and you kind of help bolster that.
Well, money is amazing, and it is very fun being rich. What do you want me to do?
Give your money away.
I would rather vote for Jill Stein, whom I will get to in a moment. Anyways, where was I? Ah, yes. So you have all of these little camps, and then sprinkled about them are evangelical Christians who want these United States run as a theocracy under biblical law, and then obviously the racists who are scared of immigrants. That actually makes up the majority of all of these camps. And then you have the Blue MAGA camp, full of Democrats who are ready to vote for Joe Biden despite him looking like the most sunsettiest person that ever did sunset. But then amidst those camps are the undecided voters and the progressives, as well as the socialists, the communists, the leftists, and any of the little niche ones that are out there.
Don't belittle leftist shit with fucking calling it niche, man. That's not what it is. A lot of people have these beliefs, whether they want to admit to it or not. They all want healthcare, they all want schooling, they all want housing, they all want food, they all, I could go down the fucking list. everybody actually wants the same thing. There's just other people screaming louder than the others. Specifically one fucking guy, and that's Donald Trump.
Well, thank you for making my point for me.
What? How did I do that?
Because you said the magic words, my friend. At the absolute primal level, everybody wants three things: food, shelter, and safety. And granted, most humans are selfish in nature, so they want that for themselves, but also people are empathetic and want that for their neighbors as well. Can you agree on that?
Well, yes and no, because, at least for half of it, but, the 30% of MAGA, I don't think has very much empathy at all. I mean, case in point with that, all women's town hall that Trump did, they mentioned that the family of this woman who died because she couldn't get an abortion did a prebuttal before the thing. Then when Trump was told about it, the whole audience laughed and he said our ratings would have probably been better. And then they laughed again. So they laughed at a dead woman twice because who died because of a policy that he implemented, that he helped bring into reality. So, when I see MAGA, talking about immigrants the way they do and talking about women the way they do and talking about, Trump wanting to use the military to get rid of socialists and his enemies and communists, I don't think they actually have empathy, especially when they still support him when he says all these things. They may just be brainwashed at the end of the day, but I don't know. I guess brainwashing does take out empathy, but Jesus Christ, these people are supposed to be followers of Jesus Christ.
Which brings me to the point of my very important episode today. You need to vote for the enemy of your enemy, my friends.
All right, yeah, man. The floor is yours.
Of course it is. I paid for it. It's made of white bark pine.
Isn't that one of the most endangered trees in the world?
Listen, do you want me to give a monologue about saving democracy or talk about the secret forest I keep in Oregon?
Democracy, I guess, unless the forest is magic?
A little bit.
All right, well, let's talk after.
All right, very good. So, America, you need to vote for the enemy of your enemy. So, let's start with Donald Trump. If you are listening to my very important words, then I can only assume you are a decent person. However, assuming does make an ass out of you and me, so there is a very real chance that anything I say about Donald Trump here may personally resonate with you, and if it does, well, you are arguably a bad person, or at the very least a Karen who has been brainwashed. And yes, I'm going to use a lot of different generalizations here about people because, well, it's my show and I can do what I want. It's a free country, for now, until Donald Trump gets elected and takes away a lot of those freedoms, including the freedom of the press. That's right. Donald Trump has said if he is elected, he will take away the licenses of people like ABC and CBS if they don't, quote, report the truth about him. He's also stated that he wants to ban video games. Project 2025, which will heavily inform his administration, wants to ban pornography as well. And if the banning of Fortnite, Pornhub, and Young Sheldon aren't bad enough, he also wants to add a tariff on all imported goods, which will add a huge sales tax to the American people, and has even described it as being a 200, even 2,000% tax. Sorry, tariff. He doesn't like the word tax, it's tariff. It's his favorite word, apparently. He's literally said that, actually. And let's not forget his plan to deport millions and millions of undocumented immigrants using the military. Or, speaking of the military, using that military to hunt down and get rid of communists and socialists and people who did not vote for him. And I am not speaking in hyperbole. Donald Trump has stated that if he wins, he would consider using the National Guard and the greater military to round up dissenters and quell protests. And if that sounds a little dictatory to you, well, let me remind you that Donald Trump once told Sean Hannity that he plans on being a dictator on day one, and then allegedly giving up power a few days later, but when has a dictator ever given up power? Never is the answer to that question. That's kind of the point. And let's not forget the fact that he wants to suppress trans rights, gay rights, take away money from states that don't agree with his policies, and fire all of the government workers and replace them with Trump loyalists. Again, my friends, this is not hyperbole. These are all things he has either said or that are in Project 2025, a document that fueled his entire campaign until it made him look bad in the media when he distanced himself from it, and will still inform his administration if he wins. And if you liked anything that I said there, then, well, you're a Trump supporter. Why are you listening to this podcast? I mean, welcome, but, this is kind of not your thing, right? I mean, that we aren't really marketing to the MAGA crowd, are we?
I mean, no, not really. We're kind of trying to troll them with a lot of stuff to get them to listen and maybe change their minds, but I don't think it's working.
I do not either, because usually when people hear me talk for more than 5 minutes, they're putty in my hands. Silly putty, the green one. It's the more fun color. But my personal choice in silly putty aside, if you did not like anything that I said about Donald Trump, well, then I suggest that you vote for the enemy of your enemy, correct?
I wish it were that simple, but I have a feeling you're going to tell me it's not.
You would be correct. Unfortunately for the Party of Hope and Change, there is a few other parties of hope and change that are attracting some of these independent voters. There's obviously the Libertarian Party, which wants to get rid of, I believe, the fire department, trash services, and just the government as a whole, sending us back to hunter-gatherer or something like that.
Yeah, they kind of seem like the in it for themselves and nobody else kind of party. I'm here for me and mine.
Ah, yes. Well, while I do personally appreciate that kind of selfishness, I also do not want to burn my own trash and put out my own fires. Nor do I want to homeschool. Those kids always turn out off.
I was homeschooled.
Yes, exactly.
All right, keep going.
Yes, indeed. Well, there's also Jill Stein in the Green Party, as well as Cornel West, who is running as an independent, and Robert F. Kennedy, who was running as an independent, but then joined up with Trump. I should say Robert F. Kennedy Jr. because, well, the MAGA supporters are just going to believe that guy's still alive.
Isn't it JFK Jr.?
Well, yes, but he is still alive, living under the University of Harvard. Our listeners know that, and anybody who doesn't can go hear that story in Road Trip: A Journey Across America, out now on all podcast apps. You can listen to it while you wait in line to vote. Just don't vote for Jill Stein or Cornel West or the Libertarians. And there may be a few of you saying, well, why not vote for a third party? These two parties are corrupt, blah, 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 blah. Well, let me remind you of this. Aside from Cornel West, who is an outspoken activist and a very good man, but as for Jill Stein, where is she while she's not running for president? I never see her go on news shows or podcasts. And don't try and tell me, oh, the Democrats are keeping her off something or the Republicans are keeping her off something. She can make her own podcast. And if she has one, great. But where is the reach of that? We seem to only hear about Jill Stein when the election pops up. You'd think by now the Green Party would have tried to make some sort of coalition agreement with the Democrats if they actually want some sort of hope or change to actually push their policies forward. I mean, it's not that difficult. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez took the Green New Deal, pushed it forward, and figured out how to play the goddamn game. So why doesn't Jill Stein? Or is Jill Stein just there to spoil the Democrats, just like the Green Party has usually done? And I'm not saying there doesn't need to be a third party, but there needs to be a viable third party, a responsible third party, a third party with a message that resonates with the American people. If the Green Party has been around this long and has almost no sway with the American people, maybe it's not the message that's wrong there, maybe it's the leadership. Because again, where is the leadership of Jill Stein anywhere in between election seasons? And she's even been on record saying that she would have a look at pardoning January 6 participants. And that all goes without saying that there is a very famous picture of her sitting at a table with Michael Flynn and Vladimir Putin. A very expensive charity dinner where she was there to allegedly tell them that she didn't approve of what they were doing. Well, did you need to actually do that, or could you have actually maybe, I don't know, tweeted it out? Or I could be in a speculatory mode because it's my show and I get to do what I want. She's a Russian asset, just like Donald Trump.
I don't know if we should say that technically, man. We don't know that for sure.
This is a comedy podcast and a political commentary podcast, Timothy, not the news. If you, the American people, are getting your news from me, well, why? This is clearly not a structured news show other than my videos that you can see on TikTok and YouTube, not really Instagram because they do not pay anything.
Which is a big capitalism no-no for Theb.
Exactly, and where was I? Oh yes, the Green Party is a spoiler party for the Democrats, and if they were actually a serious party, they would have made some sort of coalition these past 40 years trying to push their actual green, good policies. I mean, it's kind of silly. The Green Party actually has some good policies, but they don't want to seem to push them forward because the Democrats are corrupt. So are all political parties, and again, take a look at Jill Stein before you nominate her next time. And as for Cornel West, well, I have nothing negative to say about that man. He's a decent human being who is just trying to make the world a better place for those around him. But he is also a candidate who will not win. My point is, do not throw your vote away on these people. Libertarians are not so. Cornell just doesn't have a chance but is a pretty good guy, and the Green Party has good policies that are technically some of the Democrats' policies. Again, the Green New Deal is a Democratic policy that AOC and the other people in her, squad are trying to push forward. And if you elect enough Democrats into Congress, something like that may actually get to be pushed forward, especially if you as the constituents call those Democratic Congress people and have them push those bills forward in Congress. It's how politics works. It's how bills are written, everyone.
Yeah. Okay, let's not get off track here, though, man. So, the enemy of my enemy. Trump is for sure my enemy. The Libertarians, I wouldn't call them my enemy, but they're definitely not somebody I want in charge. Nor do I want Jill Stein in charge, nor do I think Cornel West would make a good president. So who do I vote for? Well, that's Kamala Harris, right? People forever, I'm sure you're about to bring up, have called her a cop or, say she doesn't have, the know-how to do the presidency, despite the fact that she was the vice president and also a senator and was a DA. Like, she's very fucking capable of doing the job. And yet people seem to not want to do that. They do not want to vote for her. Obviously the sexism and the racism portion of it is a huge thing, but what can you say to convince these people who are like, well, I'm still going to vote for MAGA. I'm not going to, I'm just not going to vote at all, or I'm going to vote this third party. Like, how do you, if that person, the establishment Democrat is still that enemy of a person to a lot of progressives and leftists that I know who really don't want to vote for Kamala, but they may have to, just like people voted for Hillary. Like, I was the same thing about Hillary. I didn't like her that much, but what do we say to those people to actually get them out to vote for Kamala Harris?
Well, aside from the obvious points of her wanting to restore abortion rights in this country, to giving $50,000 to new business owners, to increasing the child tax credit, to helping build more homes in this country, to already the decreasing inflation that is happening, to securing the border for those concerned with that, to making it harder for people to get guns that can cause mass shootings, to investing in clean energy jobs, to improving education, and yes, calling for a ceasefire in Israel and Gaza, not to mention a two-state solution with the end of the war, and not even wanting to support Benjamin Netanyahu. And speaking of that, to the uncommitted voters, we have preached voting uncommitted on this show plenty of times and actually encourage it. But just as a gentle reminder, not voting for Kamala Harris is basically allowing Donald Trump to have more votes. It is just a simple numbers game. And that same numbers game dictates that Donald Trump will be infinitely worse for the Palestinian people. He has vowed to start the Muslim ban again on day one of his presidency. Which brings me back to the original point of all of this. Even if you don't like Kamala Harris, even if you think she's a cop, even though that is a very over-exaggerated bit of news, and the policy you were referring to in that little anecdote was quickly reversed by her. Or if you think she's just another continuation of Biden, well, may I remind you that 1, she has said multiple times that she wouldn't be, 2, she's a black South Asian woman who is less than 60 years old, and considering her Senate voting record is more liberal than Bernie Sanders, she would end up becoming one of the most progressive candidates in American history. Or even if you're just a sexist who doesn't think a woman should be president, well, stop being that way and reevaluate your life. But my point being, voting for the enemy of your enemy is the right thing to do in this singular year. Because remember, Donald Trump will not be running again. He will be well into his 80s by the time he can run again. With a loss of Donald Trump, the MAGA movement shrivels and dies, or at least becomes lesser than it already is. Simply put, Donald Trump will be bad for your rights. I know voting for the enemy of your enemy is not a great thing that nobody wants to do. And yes, the political system is corrupt and will continue to be corrupt for years on end. There is nothing that this vote or any other vote can do, at least right now. Just close your eyes and imagine a world where everybody has their own bodily autonomy, where cannabis is legal, by the way, she wants to do that as well, and more houses are getting built and the economy keeps getting better and better. Where people have health care, where education does not bankrupt you nor do your medical bills. And most importantly, Imagine a world without Donald Trump keeping you awake at night. Would you like politics to go back to being boring? Would you like to go back to not hearing about it and just having food on your table, jobs, and a stable economy? Well, as much as it pains me to say that as a conservative, the Democrats can deliver on that. Even if you are a solely economics paycheck-based voter, Donald Trump's economy will be bad for that paycheck that you so love, and I don't blame you for loving it because money is pretty cool. And let us not forget that 68% of economists think that Donald Trump's plan will be bad for the country. He will put tariffs on foreign goods, the things everybody likes to buy, and that cost will be passed down to you because that's what corporations do. They take in profit while passing on the cost of doing business onto the customer. That cost of business now being the increased tariffs. Because let us not forget that during the pandemic, when Trump was president, after he passed his tax cuts, billionaires gained $3.9 trillion during the pandemic, and workers lost $3.7 trillion. Donald Trump is not for you. The third-party candidates are not viable. You can sit at home and not vote, and that's fine, enjoy that privilege, or you can go out and elect the first Black woman president. Black, South Asian, woman, president. All of those fun little buzzwords get to live in history forever for you just going down the street to wherever your polling station is, filling out a card, and voting. That's it. Because if Donald Trump is elected, you may not have that right anymore. Or at the very least, you might have to own property or have children to actually vote. Again, those are tenets of things J.D. Vance, his vice president, believes, and Project 2025, the document that will be informing Trump's administration. So, that said, it is time to go vote for the enemy of your enemy, my friends. And then pray to Cthulhu this is the last time we have to do that, and Donald Trump just goes away. I mean, Kamala Harris debating Tucker Carlson and Ron DeSantis I can handle, but this Donald Trump thing is just weared me down.
I think you mean it wore you down?
No, I mean weared me. I think I might be turning into some sort of were lobbyist or werewolf. I knew a were aardvark once. It was pretty nice, but he wasn't really that dangerous when he would turn into the aardvark.
Oh, really?
Just kind of nosed around for ants. And then after that, he would return to his Senate office under the name Cory Booker.
That's not true.
You don't know.
Fair enough. Do you want to go get some silver to prevent yourself from turning?
Oh, I keep 45 pounds of silver bars in my desk drawer. I'm fine.
Of course you do.
Well, what do you expect? There's no more gold in Fort Knox, so...
Dude, for real?
I don't know. Like I said, I need a rest and a drink. Thanks for listening, America. Please register to vote if you haven't already, and go vote early if you can, and vote on Election Day if you cannot vote early. You can check your registration and register to vote at vote.org and vote.gov. I will be in your ears one more time before this election to plead with you to vote for around 10 to 15 minutes. Don't forget to follow the show wherever you get your podcasts, and follow the show on any social media at America the Podcast. You can also follow Cute News at cute.news on TikTok and Cute News Team on YouTube. That said, I will be in your ears again soon. For now, and as always, good night and good fight.
It's America, the podcast.
You've been listening to America, the Podcast, the original series. The show stars Tim Phillippe and Theb A Stard, the embodiment of and only hope for America, as themselves. Any additional voices heard in this episode were portrayed by the fabulous cast of voice actors listed in the show notes. The amazing America, the Podcast theme song you are listening to is by Timmy Two Step, and all other music and sounds heard in this show were procured through Story Blocks, Pixabay, freesound.org, and Sonus. America, the Podcast is recorded at Shway Media Studios in Austin, Texas, and is mixed and edited by Tim Phillippe. Executive producers for this show are Alana Matos, Tim Phillippe, and Theb A Stard. For more information, please visit shwaymedia.com and americathepodcast.com. Copyright 2024, all rights reserved.
This has been a production of Shway Media, all rights reserved. For more information, please visit shwaymedia.com.